Donald Trump promised to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. 4 weeks later, and Trump has sold out to Russia, even before negotiations with Ukraine have begun. The Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, former Fox News guy, he just announced that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective, and that Ukraine must never join NATO. It was as if he was reading a Kremlin press release.
But we must start by recognizing that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective. The United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement.
Trump also called for Russia's return to the G7 group of industrialized nations, saying its expulsion was wrong. Russia was suspended from the group, then the G8, in 2014 after the annexation of Crimea, and it announced its permanent withdrawal in 2017. You see, in Donald Trump's worldview, every deal has a price tag, and sentiment holds little value. Or indeed, values hold little value. Trump views the war through the lens of negotiation, seeing an opportunity to strike a deal that could redefine Eastern Europe's balance of power and position him as a strong man alongside strong men. Trump has made it clear that securing peace is his goal, but not necessarily on Ukraine's terms. His regime has suggested that Kiev should be forced into territorial concessions to Moscow, shifting the balance of power in Eastern Europe. While previous administrations framed Ukraine's sovereignty as a red line, Trump sees it as a bargaining chip. "I just want to stop the killing," he said in the Oval Office the other day. Well, his words suggest a transactional approach where securing an agreement, any agreement, takes precedence over long-term strategic implications. For Ukraine and its European allies, this shift marks an unsettling change, forcing them to reconsider their own security frameworks. And incidentally, Trump appears to have no idea how many people have been killed, nor does he appear to care. So when he talks about stopping the killing, it's just the first phrase that comes to mind.
Any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops. If these troops are deployed as peacekeepers to Ukraine at any point, they should be deployed as part of a non-NATO mission, and they should not be covered under Article 5. As part of this, Europe must provide the overwhelming share of future lethal and non-lethal aid to Ukraine.
The Biden administration's stance was clear. Ukraine would determine the conditions for any negotiations with Russia. But Trump has redefined the rules. In a move that caught many off guard, he directly engaged with Vladimir Putin before consulting the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The Kremlin's response was swift and triumphant, seeing this as a validation of its strategy. This is exactly what Putin was waiting for, noted one Russian diplomatic source. Moscow now believes that with Trump at the helm, the US is more willing to accommodate Russian interests, potentially at the expense of NATO's strategic positioning. The talks hint at broader geopolitical implications. Russia has expressed its desire for a settlement that revisits the origins of the conflict, a thinly veiled reference to NATO's eastward expansion. Speculation is that Moscow may push for the withdrawal of US forces from Eastern Europe, a move that would significantly alter the continent's security landscape. Not that Trump cares about that either. The diplomatic maneuvering has left European leaders frustrated and a little nervous. Traditionally, Europe has played a central role in discussions about Ukraine, but Trump's direct dealings with Putin suggest a diminishing influence. European officials have stressed the need for inclusion in any agreement, warning that a deal struck without their input would not hold. "We cannot be sidelined," declared the EU foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas. "A lasting peace deal requires European involvement." However, Trump's defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, hinted that all options remain open, including reducing the US military footprint in Europe. Such a move would leave European nations more vulnerable and could embolden Russia to push for further territorial gains.
We're also here today to directly and unambiguously express that stark strategic realities prevent the United States of America from being primarily focused on the security of Europe. The United States faces consequential threats to our homeland. We must and we are focusing on security of our own borders.
For Putin, this moment represents a potential turning point. Despite facing setbacks early in the war and economic struggles due to sanctions, he remains steadfast, waiting for geopolitical conditions to shift in his favor. With Trump now in office, the Kremlin sees an opportunity to press its demands more forcefully. Despite Trump's denials of being beholden to Russia, Trump has never said a bad word about Vladimir Putin, remember, and indeed chose his word over the advice of the US security services back in 2018 in Helsinki. Russian state media has portrayed recent developments as a diplomatic victory, with commentators celebrating Trump's apparent willingness to challenge the existing Western consensus. The Moscow exchange saw a surge in investor confidence, reflecting optimism US-Russia relations could take a more favorable turn. Meanwhile, Ukrainian resistance remains strong, and European allies will not easily accept a deal that undermines their security. Furthermore, domestic opposition within the US could complicate Trump's ability to implement his vision. As discussions continue, the key question remains: does Trump even want peace? Or has his plan all along been to help Putin annex the Donbass or another Ukrainian territory and declare it to be Russia? For now, all eyes are on Trump's next move. He's shifting alliances, make this one of the most consequential diplomatic moments in recent history. The stakes are high, not just for Ukraine, but for the entire global order. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.